Welcome to the Vegan Squad Pod, a podcast made to inspire vegans to become activists. Join us and our guests as we deep dive into effective forms of activism that we believe will change the world. Whether it's going to vigils, building a physique that shows people we don't need to eat animals, public speaking, or any other form of activism that you'll hear on this podcast, we want to empower you to find your voice and to speak up for justice. Thank you so much for being here and enjoy the episode.
Pod. Today, I'm joined with my co-host, Alex Nearest, aka your Vegan Mentor One. And today we have a super special guest, Jay Yontz, the co-founder of Ziggy's Refuge, an animal sanctuary. According to their website, they are dedicated to creating better lives for the victims of animal cruelty by means of shelter, medical care, and education. And I am excited to hear their backstory. And for those of you that are new to the podcast, or Jay, if you haven't heard other episodes before, we like to learn a bit about you and your background, and then what you're currently up to. And we also, at the end, reach out to everyone that we bring on this podcast to hear what their lessons for other activists would be. Basically, what have you learned in your time advocating for the animals, and what like tips and tricks do we have that we can take back and share with other activists?
Sure.
So very excited to have you on here, sir. Let's dive a little bit into you before we get into the sanctuary. Like, I think it's important to know the person behind the mission, or the persons. I know your partner helps with this, so let's hear about you, Jay. Tell us where you came from.
Just grew up in Illinois. Went to college out in Colorado, and really, growing up and stuff, being vegan never really crossed my mind. My job, kind of when it started like entering my life, I guess, was I used to travel around building tennis courts, and I would kind of go all over the place, follow the good weather. And I was down in the Caribbean working, and that's when I met Kristen, and she had a pet pig, and that was Ziggy. And we hit it off. I shortly moved back down to St. John, and getting to know Ziggy, that was kind of sealed the deal for me as far as pork goes. And just as that progressed and I met other animals, it just kind of snowballed from there. But as far as how we got into having a sanctuary, I was down in St. John for about 2 years, and then Ziggy, he had a perfect place to live. We'd walk him to the beach every single day, twice a day. And the one thing about St. John, though, is most of the beaches are national parks, so there's very few places he's actually allowed to go. And then when our housing situation changed and we had to move, we couldn't find a place where he'd still be able to go to the beach without having to go in a car and stuff. So we spent all our life savings on flying him back in a private plane, and the other half on a motorhome. And we couldn't figure out where we wanted to live, so we traveled the country for 2 years with Ziggy out of the motorhome. Volunteered at different sanctuaries, and that's when it became really clear that going vegan was the right thing to do. And through traveling with Ziggy, we were able to get a social media following, and that's how we were able to ultimately raise money to purchase the farm and start Ziggy's Refuge. In 2016 is when we founded. 2017 is when we got the property.
Wow, that's such a cool story.
Yeah, it was an adventure. It was definitely a lot of fun. Ziggy got to go to lots of different national parks. He loves hiking. But he doesn't like doing the same trail twice. So it really worked out well where we could go to different places and stuff like that. He loves the water. And he's just got a big personality. He's always been the kind of, he just loves meeting other people. From his days in St. John, he'd meet all the tourists. He'd go to the bars and stuff. One bar actually had like a little broom set out on the beach for him where everybody knew, all the locals knew that broom was for brushing his belly. And so Kristen and I would hang out at the bar, and everybody kind of just knew to take care of Ziggy. And if it rained, he'd even come in. He was kind of like the local mascot on St. John.
I was about to say, that's so cool, yeah. And it's really cool that he was so social, and you got to introduce him to so many people. Like, that's, like you said, exactly like he's being a mascot and just helping people connect the dots.
Yeah. And so as far as, our approach to vegan advocacy and stuff, we try to replicate, what worked for me and what worked for Kristen. And that's just meeting the animals and let the animals be their own ambassadors. And I think sanctuaries are, great at that. And that's kind of like the most valuable tool with it, where we don't have to tell people and beat them over their head, why it's important. they just get to meet the animals and make their own connections. You know, most people love dogs and they're not going to eat a dog. And it's really obvious to them why they don't want to do that, because they love dogs. So if we can just get them to love pigs and cows and everything else, it naturally falls in line for them.
100%.
I think it's really powerful for you to be able to take him and use him as that, almost that bridge. It bridges that the gap for you. I almost wonder if like vegans worldwide should just adopt animals outside of dogs and cats, adopt farm animals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they all have unique personalities, and that's, you know, something I love about having a sanctuary is, I mean, I could take you around and introduce you to every animal, and they all have, you know, something about them that's extremely unique, just like people, just like dogs, cats, everything else. And yeah, I think it's a really valuable tool, and at the same time, we get to rescue animals and give them a great life. So it's a win-win.
Awesome. So you guys have been doing this just about a decade now.
Yeah, it's gone fast. It's hard to believe, honestly. I feel like we just got started, but yeah, we've been doing this for almost a decade. We actually acquired an extra property across the street from us last year. We got a bed and breakfast over there, and yeah, we're excited that we're able to keep growing and keep rescuing more animals and just keep doing the thing.
That's cool.
So let's talk. I know she's not here to speak for herself, but I'm sure you can do a job. Good job. I'm curious. So we got Kristen. 10 years ago, you guys met, or roughly, and she's got a pet pig. How did that start for her? How did she get Ziggy in the first place?
I mean, she had been vegetarian since she was very young, and she just honestly always wanted a pig. On top of that, you know, she finished college in 2008, and, you know, that was like the housing market crisis, everything else, and she just kind of wasn't ready for that, you know, that business world quite yet. And so she thought, and she'd gone on a vacation to St. John with her family, and she met this guy who runs a bunch of banks down there, and he offered her a position, and she's like, I'll go down there for 6 months or so. And she was there, and, you know, just living the life down there. It's a pretty exciting place to live. And then she heard about this pig that, you know, micro mini teacup pigs. It's going to stay small. She thought it'd be so cool. You know, she'd island hop with this little baby pig, and he's never going to grow up. And of course, that's not true. They don't exist. And now Ziggy's almost 300 pounds. Like, he's a big, you know, anything under 300 pounds, they'll consider a mini pig. I mean, he's on the upper end of that. And, but I mean, she loved him. She's obsessed with him. So am I. We've always have been. And kind of just, you know, started that journey. But so when I met Kristen, Ziggy was almost 2 years old at that time. And, you know, I was there for work for about a month. I didn't really have any expectations of moving down there. You know, I had a home in Colorado. I thought that's where I was going to be forever. But so I just thought it was cool. She had a pet pig and met Zig and got to know her. And it was pretty quick that I realized that's where I wanted to be.
Very cool. Very cool. So you guys toured the country for 2 years, and you said that's how you grew your following, was like documenting that traveling experience?
Yeah. We had a social media page called Ziggy the Traveling Piggy. And yeah, he got to do some really cool stuff. Like he went to a private party at Sundance Film Festival in Park City, Utah. We got invited to go backstage for Stagecoach Country Music Festival, out where like Coachella and all that is. So yeah, we were 3 days there, and Ziggy, he was even invited on stage for one of the artists, but there was a dust storm going on. Ziggy was not wanting to go anywhere near that, but visited lots of national parks. He loved obviously going to the beach out in California. Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, we went everywhere, you name it. The only place we didn't really make was like the Pacific Northwest, but everywhere else we really hit it up, and it was fun. And I, you know, built tennis courts like I'd always done. It's a kind of a niche business, so you can kind of find work everywhere.
Cool.
When you went to like Coachella and all those music festivals, just hiking and stuff, when Ziggy met other people, were they like, were you able to talk to them about veganism too, and like respecting all animals? Or
Yeah,
are they
yeah.
good?
Yeah, we used to, even do like the little sidewalk chalk art and stuff on there, leave messages while Ziggy's walking by. He's not setting any speed records, so we were able to. We had a lot of free time, and yeah, we made those connections with people. People just had no idea that pigs could be so cool. They're these farm animals are kind of kept behind closed doors for a reason, because they don't want people to get to know them. They don't want to understand that they're a personality, and don't really want to see them as individuals. And so, like I said, I mean, Ziggy he's his best advocate. He's his best ambassador, and he's got a big personality. He loves everybody. We always joke, like he looks at people like Pez dispensers. He just thinks everybody's got treats for him. But he loves a good belly rub, and he's just never met a stranger.
Oh, I love that for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's the best. He's actually, there he is right there.
Oh, we see
Got
him.
him on camera.
Yeah, he hasn't gotten up for the day yet. He's had his breakfast, and he takes a nap, and then he goes out, and we got a swimming pool for him. He does water therapy in for a couple hours every day that he loves, and we kind of made his own little beach, tropical beach out here where he does laps every day. So hopefully he'll let me get through this without starting to make noise and want up.
It's all right. He can come on the mic.
Yeah, we're on his schedule, and he knows it.
So let's talk about like current day. Like what all do you guys do at Ziggy's Refuge? How many animals do you have? What are the projects you're working on right now?
Yeah, so we've got just under 100 permanent residents here. We've grown into kind of a specialty with disabled animals. We've actually got prosthetics lab here where we can build prosthetics. We have one pig, Hannah Montana. She's around like 600 pounds, and we got her when she was a baby, and she has deformed hind legs, so she wears these prosthetic boots. She's on like her 18th pair now. When she was growing, it was every like 2-3 weeks she'd grow out of them. So it was that's when we had to build the lab here. And now we actually have them professionally made because they last a good like 6 months or so. But before, I mean, even the turnaround time was, by the time we'd get the pair, she'd already had outgrown them. But So we have that. We got Moko, sheep. We're actually teaching him he's actually catching on pretty quick at driving a motorized wheelchair. We moves the joystick around with his face and stuff, and yeah, he's getting pretty good at that. So that's exciting. He when he was a baby, frostbite took his back legs when we got him, and he used to be able to get around well with prosthetics, but over time it kind of just took its toll on his body after a few years, where it's just he kind of got to the point where he couldn't use them, or wasn't comfortable enough using them, and kind of felt like it was more for us because we enjoyed it, and then he wasn't really having as much fun with it. But he loves people. I mean, he's obsessed with people. He'll just jump in anyone's lap. And so we have volunteers that just, dedicated just hanging out with Moko every day. And now that he's getting the wheelchair, he's getting around with that. So that's, I mean, a lot of our time is tending to the special needs animals. And then on top of that, right now, we are working on a hoarding case that we took on with 163 pigs. So we had those animals signed over to us. They're at a staging area currently near us we're using from a neighbor's property. And we're working on getting them vetted, healthy, and adopted out. And that is taking up a ton of our time. So we've got, I think, about 80 animals left now. So we're almost done with all the spays. We've done all the neuters, deworming, all that normal vetting stuff. And then just, in these cases, there's always going to be sick animals. So we have one at the UGA hospital currently battling pneumonia. We got another one we're talking about actually taking there today. One of the spays, she seems to might have an infection going on with that. But so it's very expensive. It's very time consuming and stuff, but obviously well worth it. So we're finding really good homes for them, getting them matched up with homes, and it's an exciting process, although stressful. We're about a month in right now.
I was gonna say, I think that's when you came onto my radar. I know Mike Brown.
Yeah, Mike's
he
awesome.
told me about you guys and showed me some footage of him being on site at that rescue location with all the pigs, and I'm sure being there is even way different than just watching it on a video, but even just watching it, it was really the scope, the size of the project just seems incredibly large. So it's really, really awesome that you guys are there to be able to take care of these animals that need help. I've never been in your shoes. I don't know what it's like to be on the sanctuary side. I've been to some sanctuaries, but never taken care of the animals myself. Frankly, I don't think that I'd want to.
Yeah, I don't recommend it, to be honest with you. It's a tough life. Everything looks like it's fun, just hanging out with animals and stuff, but it's really stressful. And we've been trying to do a vacation for years now, and every time it's, Kristen just had her 40th birthday March 1st, and we were going to try and go on a trip for that, and that ended up being the day that they were moved here. And so it's been it's been a lot of work. We've got a great team, though. You mentioned Mike with Unity Animal Sanctuary, Cotton Branch. They've been helping a lot. Tess with Rise of the Pig, the new sanctuary up in New York State. She's amazing. She's been helping a lot. Anna Marie with Eastern Snouts is helping a ton with transportation, adoption coordination. Red Feather Equine Sanctuary near us has been helping a ton with, God, they're volunteers. They come out and they're just absolutely incredible. And she's also helping with keeping all the animal information intact in spreadsheet, because it's hard to learn all these different names and their history and who they're bonded with. We're really trying hard to not break up families. Some of these animals have been together for a decade, and so we want to make sure that they're being adopted out together, and not just trying to get them home just to call it a victory, but actually make sure that they're staying with it, because we believe these animals form these really strong bonds, and we can't talk about it all day and then not actually respect it when it's inconvenient, just because we want to get them home as fast as we can. But
yeah, I appreciate you all going through that intricate process of making sure that they're all staying together, and just allowed them to be together for the rest of their lives. Because we all form tight bonds with each other, and I adopted 3 rats when I was in college. When you were talking about how they all have different personalities, you can definitely see with all the rats. They were brothers, but every single one of them was completely different from the other. But they had extremely tight bonds, and I can't imagine separating them just because. So I appreciate you thinking about the animals in the same way and making sure that they get to stay together in their families and take care of each other.
Yeah, absolutely. We believe in all those things about them. We talk about why they're so special to us and stuff, and I just think it'd be pretty hypocritical to break that up just because it's easier.
Totally. Yeah.
You
guys take better care of these pigs than we're taking care of people in this country, but that's a whole different
and ourselves. And definitely ourselves.
So I'm curious, scrolling it back just a little bit. You went to college. What did you go to college for?
Civil engineering at Colorado State.
And you built tennis courts.
Yeah,
you didn't go to school to open a sanctuary.
No, God, no. It just kind of happened, when we started volunteering and out in our travels and stuff. It seemed like what we wanted to be doing, and with our following, we felt like it was something we could do, and we're really lucky to have just really good support that makes it possible. We can't do any of this on our own. It's really expensive. Lots of different, resources you need to do it. And so we're thankful that we were able to get that position. And we give all that credit to Ziggy for just being just the coolest little dude.
Thank you.
You're welcome to decline to answer, but I've talked to some other sanctuaries just one-to-one, just to kind of get an idea for the scope of what they do. What is in numbers, what does your team look like between, I don't know if you have employees or volunteers or a combination, how many humans are on the ground to help run this sanctuary?
Yeah, so it's me and Kristen live here full time. and then we have we have an interview today. We're going to hire another employee here today, or well, we're not hiring today, but we're interviewing to get that. And then we have 3 other full-time employees, regular volunteers. We're pretty rural, so like we struggle to get as many volunteers as other sanctuaries do, but still on a consistent basis, probably about 5 or 6 that are here, scheduled every single week. And yeah, it's a sun up, sundown kind of thing. And then, we're usually on the computer and on our phones till about 11 or 12 at night, every night, trying to keep up with it. Social media is such a valuable tool doing this. And when it's light out, we got to be outside working with animals. So trying to catch up after that.
And do you guys run the social media yourself too?
Yeah, Kristen's the powerhouse behind that. I help her where I can, but she's the one who does that primarily.
Just curious. I feel like what you guys do is it's almost like running a business. Running a business, a business of helping animals. Probably would have picked something else if your goal was to get rich.
Yeah, 100%.
And like I was thinking, like I don't know. I went to business school, and it still did nothing for me. Like on what we do, like we run this vegan squad coaching team, and I'm just like I've had to learn all of this on the fly, including the social media. Like I didn't go to school for that either.
Yeah.
So I can see the resiliency and self-determination to get there. The other maybe more sensitive number, just because I think a lot of people have no idea. Like when you say it's expensive, they don't know. Like, do you have like a monthly budgeted expense? I'm sure it fluctuates based on vet bills or like this new acquisition that you got of a bunch of additional animals. But like, is there like a rough monthly number that you guys anticipate each month having to expense for the animal?
Yeah, I mean, like the baseline, no projects, no, building projects, no, equipment purchases, anything like that is out here is like $30,000 a month would probably be like if everything goes, downhill in the world and we're just like, we can't do anything extra, no growth, no anything else. That's what it would take to like just make sure to take care of the animals, maintain the property. I mean, our electric bill is well over $2,000 a month, and what people don't think about is there's insurance, there's, employee costs, there's, I mean, I could go on and on, all the stuff that's not very flashy, not the stuff you can, post online and say, hey, help us with this bill. But it's, it really, it's endless, vehicle maintenance, equipment maintenance, all that stuff just adds up so fast. But so, and that's why, we really do try to focus on, the social media side of things and getting the word out and getting our message out, because we have 100 animals and, that's a drop in the bucket, compared to what's actually happening out there. So our impact has to be beyond those animals that we're actually caring for.
100%. And so through social media, I guess you guys get donations or Patreon. Like how do people support you?
Yeah, so we do have Patreon. That's how we handle our monthly sponsorships and monthly donors. You can also donate on our website, ziggysrefuge.org. And we do, I'd say most of our donations actually come in through like the donate button on Facebook and Instagram. I think a lot, like we're more so than most sanctuaries, I'd say it goes through there. I think early on, we, like you said, we didn't learn how to run a business and stuff. So early on, we weren't using like the CRM software and things like that. And everything was just kind of being tracked willy-nilly, and so we've kind of trained our donors to go through those buttons and stuff, so, as opposed to primarily through a website where you get their information and it's easier to track. So when we try to kind of funnel them away from that, it's been a challenge. So we just kind of embrace it and let them donate, however they want, and then I have to do the work to get all the information in one place every so often. It's a challenge, but
yeah. Wow, that's the biggest number I've heard yet. I've heard about a third of that as far as total expenses monthly at other sanctuaries, or a little bit over that. But yeah, I mean,
we have a lot of disabled animals. we do. Sometimes, people might think some of the stuff we do is excessive, but like most of our animals have air conditioning, heat. Ziggy's pool. Ziggy's got pretty advanced arthritis at this point, so him doing his water therapy is like a life-saving tool for him. And he needs to do that in the winter too. So we actually heat that pool throughout the winter so he can swim all year long. So things like that, add up a lot. He gets really advanced therapies for his arthritis as well as do a lot of our other animals. So like one of the things he gets that we're really lucky to have access to is stem cells. So like for Ziggy, he actually gets his own cells harvested, like fat cells harvested. We send them to a lab up in Pennsylvania. And then right now he's on every 3 months. We have those cells. They do something fancy in the lab. I don't know. And they turn them into stem cells and get them so they're injectable. And they come down here. And then we actually have the anesthesia machine. We have the x-ray. We have all the tools. And we have an amazing vet on our board. He'll come up here and do the joint injections right here. So Ziggy doesn't even get out of bed. He can do that. And 15 minutes later, he's done. So we've started to do that with some of our bigger pigs as well. Because arthritis is not even probably. I mean, for the big pigs, like the 700-pound Yorkshire pigs, arthritis is bar none like the biggest thing that gets them. They're just bred to be too big. And so we're doing that for them as well. It's really expensive to do. I mean, each time you do it, it's almost $2,000. And so now we're starting to get an aging herd, and we're doing that with more and more and more of them. And, for us, if we think that's because we can do it, it's something we feel like is part of that essential care that we need to do. So I say, like, if everything goes to hell, like, we still want to be able to continue that sort of thing for them because it's adding years onto their life.
Yeah, that's amazing, the level of rehab and medical care that you give to the animals.
Yeah.
Like even just going for stem cells. I had no idea that you could do all that for animals. Like I knew about prosthetics and stuff, but even getting a wheelchair for the one animal and like doing the stem cells, that's very awesome.
Yeah, what we think. I look at it like people that are watching rescues on the internet and stuff, and then they might adopt a pig or. I feel like the assumption is always going to be that the rescues are giving like the best care. And so when they have, adopt an animal, they say, well, they do this, but I'm sure this is okay. And it'd be a little lower. So like, if we're just doing the basics and just what they need, there's going to be people out there that go a little below that. And then that's when, animals get in trouble. So I'd rather let them assume we're over the top and then they're going to do amazing below that. And, just, we feel like we need to raise the bar, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say what really like affected me personally visiting a sanctuary, seeing like an 800-pound pig. It made me realize just like to another degree just how cruel this is. Because they really have no true way out, like as a being, as an individual, because I'm just sharing this because I didn't always know this, so there might be somebody listening that doesn't already know. But these pigs are bred to be slaughtered very young, and if for some reason the pig is saved or outside of the slaughterhouse or on your sanctuary, they're in a body that's almost like a prison. Like they grow so big that they're as you said, their joints, their bones can't really support their body weight. And it's like, even if they're rescued, they don't really get a real fair shot at life.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Skin cancer's incredibly common with the big pink pigs. All pigment's been bred out of them for whatever reason. And so they get skin cancer really, really easy, and it's quite a battle. So I mean, it's just on and on. Like, yeah, they're just in bodies that weren't meant to survive, and we'll always see people say, "Oh, like if vegans had their way, these species would go away," and I'm like, good, like I mean, I don't want the animals themselves that are alive to die. I don't want that, but like. They're not meant to be alive. Like, I mean, they're heavily flawed bodies that are only meant for one thing, and that's, for people to eat them. And it's really sad. Like you said, the suffering never completely ends. You do everything you can to make them happy, but it's they're just completely unnatural.
It's like some of the dog breeds, like they get much higher rates of cancer or other degenerative diseases, and it's from the continued inbreeding over generations. Like, we don't want to, as vegans, we don't want to just kill these animals or erase them off the earth, but we also don't need to keep breeding animals into existence that wouldn't naturally be here or naturally end up like this. So it's yeah. So what are, I know you guys just brought on the way that I got in contact with you or heard about you is bringing on these, I think 160 pigs.
Yep.
You have that project, and like, what are the other big projects that you guys are focusing on right now?
So we want to expand our medical capabilities here. Like I said, we got Dr. Hawkins. He's incredible. Was a surgeon at Purdue for 30 years. He's a president of the American College of Veterinary Surgeons, like elected by all like the large animal surgeons in the country. And he's on our board, and he's, our medical director. And so with that resource, we want to expand what we can do here. So we're building out a surgical suite currently. We're building out a clinic here. We want to go beyond that eventually. So that's our big project that's always kind of slowly advancing in the back burner, just as we keep taking on these other things that become extremely urgent. But, currently we have an ultrasound, we have the x-ray, we got the anesthesia machine. And yeah, we just need to get our facilities just a little bit better to do a little bit more advanced stuff, and just higher volumes. Right now and then also get the actual facility licensed so we can take in outside animals and help other rescues. Currently, since they're our animals and he's on our board, he can legally work on our animals without it being a licensed facility. But we'd like to be able to get that and be able to help others because, currently where we're at, NC State, they can be a little reluctant to take on pigs. So in emergency, sometimes we're driving 5-6 hours, and obviously that's not ideal with a sick animal to, put them through the stressful travel as well as Zach's getting up. I'm going to text Kristen here, tell her to come get him. And so, yeah, just avoiding that travel. And sometimes, we'll take an animal to the hospital that didn't need to go to the hospital because we want to be safe than sorry. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But, now that we have the ultrasound, we've had a lot of pigs that have GI issues. And that's something that, presents itself pretty subtly at first and then can advance really quick. And by the time you get them to the hospital, it's too late. But now that we have the ultrasound, and it actually has a feature where Dr. Hawkins can see it almost like a Zoom. So he could tell us what's going on and tell us, okay, this is an emergency, or no, they're going to be all right. They just got an upset stomach. And
how can you tell if they're having GI distress? Like, obviously pigs don't speak English, but what do you look at?
Anytime a pig's not eating, that's a big deal. And so that's one sign. They can be really bloated. Excuse me one sec. I got to help him up.
Live pig action right now. Wow. I'm blown away.
Ziggy likes to be helped up. When we're here, he can do it on his own, but when we're here, he'll just scream until we help him. He's just bold like that. But yeah, so like we've had, one of our bigger pigs, Vinny, he was really bloated one night and couldn't eat. And so we were able to do the ultrasound, look at it. He said, no, his gut's moving. There's no blockage. Keep an eye on him. It's probably just upset stomach, gas, stuff like that. And it was, and we didn't have to take him to the hospital and do all that. But so that's really helpful, being able to do things like that right here. And then also they get to heal up here, with their friends, with us, instead of like a scary hospital. Sometimes it can be months, where they're getting better, and being able to do that here is a big advantage. for their comfort, for their recovery too. I mean, it's the mental side of healing is really important. So
Totally. So are you looking to become like the sanctuary in the U.S. that gives this type of medical treatment to animals?
I mean, we're looking to be a sanctuary. I'd love it if everybody is able to, do stuff like that. It's not a competition. So, those are our priorities, and I think it's very valuable, and I think it's important. And if others, are able to do that too, that's absolutely fantastic. I think it's hard to find vets, good vets to do it too. I mean, there's so many challenges with it, and we got Dr. Hawkins on our side, so we want to take advantage of that as much as we can.
I had
100%, yeah.
I had a friend that was a vet, and she was not vegan,
Mm-hmm.
and it just like perplexed me that she would stay up till like 6 a.m. performing surgeries on animals, and then come home and eat animals. And
Yeah.
I asked her, and she's like, "Well, some animals are bred to be pets, and some are bred for food. It doesn't bother me." And I'm just like,
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
"Oh,
Yeah, and the ironic thing is there's more vegan dog and cat vets than there are large animal vets. It's the process of becoming a large animal vet alone, you'd have to compromise your ethics as a vegan to go through that process. We were at a hospital once, and we had a pig. He wasn't doing well at all. Kristen's crying, We're in the stall with him, and thank God he's doing great now. This is a couple of years ago, so he did make it. But and just outside in the aisle, outside the stall, there was a guy that worked there with some students, and he was talking with them about a field trip they're going on, and it was to slaughterhouse with goats, and he was talking in detail about the process and what they're going to see and what it's going to be like. And thank God Kristen didn't hear it; she would have lost it, But I mean. It was tough knowing that like these are the people we're trusting with his life, and they're talking about just killing animals. And so yeah, it's a lot of the universities are funded by agriculture, and yes, there's a big conflict of interest there with at the very least the funding. I mean, I think there's a lot of great vets out there that do really care about the animals they're working on, but it is a challenge. Just that process and then how they're funded. We've been told, don't post at your animals here right now because, our donors may not like it, things like that. It's pretty shocking that you would think they would love sanctuaries, challenging them and bringing them unique cases. And I think by and large the vets do, but the organizations a lot of times don't.
all comes back to money if we look for it."
Yep, and like I said, it's the industry itself doesn't like the animals being seen as individuals because it's not good for their bottom line. And when an animal gets really advanced medical care, and you can see that turnaround, and people make that connection that they are worth saving, on a broader scale, it kind of goes against what they're doing to make their money.
Yeah. I want to pivot away to maybe. Well, I had a few questions, but one that really came to mind is for you and Kristen. You both live there.
Mm.
How do you guys? I feel like we talk a lot with other activists, especially like animal rights activists on here, and talk about how they take care of their mental health so that they can do this for life or for as long as they plan to do it. So what do you and Kristen do to take care of yourselves while also giving back so much?
Not enough. We don't do enough.
Honest.
It's like I think for me, what I started getting back into playing tennis last year was the first time I was doing anything, for myself as far as just, enjoyment. And that's been a huge help for me. I'm trying to get Kristen to do stuff for herself, and she's just so committed that it's really hard for her to pry herself away from the work. And I know she's not alone in the sanctuary world with that. I think it's really important. Self-care is huge. And it takes its toll between losing animals, I've been saying this for a little while now, but like I noticed a switch with me where like I used to walk around the property and see an animal and just, smile and think how much I love them. And then now a lot of times I find myself just thinking, and they're perfectly healthy. And I'll think how hard it's going to be when we lose them, because you start looking at things that way. So I think it's important that people do stuff, for self-care, and it's really hard to do it because every time we get, an extra employee or an extra, extra help around here, we think, okay, this will be where we get to take a deep breath. And then we hear about a bunch of animals that need help. And all of a sudden you're back at that point of doing everything you can. And you don't get that break. You just end up doing more. And, it's a big challenge to not push yourself to that limit.
I think it might be, in a sense, more difficult for you and Kristen to do that because you're so close to the work that you do. Like, you're physically living there. We just had Jimmy Cashby on the podcast yesterday, and when I asked him a little bit about what advice he'd have for other activists, I feel like it's one really useful for me. Like, it kind of smacked me across the face. I went up and talked to my partner Allie at the gym yesterday about it while I was training. Like, I was reflecting on it, and he said that activists need to remember that it's okay to take a vacation, it's okay to relax, it's okay to take care of yourself, and not just for you, but also because we can't make activism seen as reachable and attainable and sustainable if we don't have that built in. So definitely, I'm working on it too. Trying to find ways to pour back into my own cup. But I imagine it in some ways is hard for you guys just because you're literally living there.
And I'm sure you've probably seen it. There's articles and stuff, against veganism, and they say, oh, vegans are mentally ill and their mental health is so bad. And it's like, it's not because you're vegan. It's because you just kind of hate the world you're in, and, you're pushing yourself to the limits and stuff. And it's not that being vegan's bad for you. It's the realization of what's going on in the world that is. And, I think if everybody would prioritize their own mental health and stuff, I think, that sort of thing would go away. And we can be out in the world and also be just perceived as normal, who also are vegan. And then, you can have better conversations that way.
I think possibly, I don't want to overstep my bounds here at all, but the energy that you were able to bring when you took Ziggy on tour, and have that love and that excitement and that positivity, I'm sure that's what built your following. I'm sure that is exactly what gravitated people towards your cause, and trying to remain in the present and not worry about when the animals that are going to pass, but be grateful that you have them here right now. Like, I'm not at all trying to be talking from a place of knowing everything. I've found even in the last few weeks for myself, just really grounding and being grateful that I have fingers and eyes, a nose, mouth, that I can breathe air. Like, just being grateful for those really small things allows me a little bit of breathing room to get through what feels like otherwise some hard days. So,
absolutely.
I feel like you really do feel the weight of the world just thinking about all the animals out there that are suffering. So it is important to come back to gratitude and try to come back to the present moment and see take accountability for what you are doing every day to support the animals that or if you're not a sanctuary owner, just still being vegan, using your voice, talking to people, and taking care of yourself so that you can keep your cup as full as possible, so you can remain showing up as the grounded version of you.
And I just, in general, I feel like, there's always these conversations about like what's the most effective form of advocacy and stuff. And I don't think that's really a relevant conversation necessarily. I think everybody can, there's lots of people out there and everybody responds to things differently. And so I think if someone's out there doing something that's changing people's minds, that's great. And we don't have to worry about what's the most effective. We need them all, I guess. Some people, you can just get in their face and yell at them, and that's going to get them to think. And other people completely shut down when that happens. And so, for us, it's trying to replicate, what happened with me and just meeting the animals. But there's just so many different ways to do it. That and some of them are in the for-profit world, some in the nonprofit world. I mean, just all of the above. I just think whatever people are compelled to do and whatever way that they can represent, I think is valuable. We need it all.
100%. Yeah, I agree. I also was curious. I know you mentioned that you're focused on education for people that do visit your sanctuary. I know that you're doing it through allowing people to meet the animals and stuff, but like, do you give out any resources to people on like going vegan or anything like that, like when they leave for pre-vegans or like new vegans?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've worked at Challenge 22.
Okay.
We send people there quite a bit when people are looking for help and advice. We feel like that's always been a good resource. And I mean, there's a lot of them out there. I know it can be intimidating at first. People think they want to go vegan. I know it was for me. I know like that the idea of it just seemed almost overwhelming to me at first, because it's so a part of everyday life. And one of the big things for me was just the social aspect of it, like going out to eat and stuff. I hate being difficult, so that that was something that really concerned me. But just having different resources and people that can just give you advice and how to navigate those things, and it's really not nearly as hard as what it seems.
Totally. Yeah. And when you have that strong why, you don't care like what the people are thinking, or like if it's too hard, like, you just make it the decision because you know that there's an animal's life at stake. I'm curious, for you, how did you move through the social pressures that you felt in the beginning, and like what advice would you give to somebody who might be like facing the same thing or is a new vegan?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, for me, that what made it easier is like we're traveling around and visiting sanctuaries and stuff, and then having Kristen around as well. I wasn't alone in it, so that really helped. But I think in general, like if there's a certain social situation that's stressing you out about it, you can plan ahead, eat beforehand. I don't think you like if you're going to a party, you don't necessarily have to tell the host to make something for you or anything like that. Just if you're worried about that, just eat ahead of time and be out there, and people ask you can explain why, and that's just an opportunity to have the conversation. But I mean, the best advice I say is it's you can build it up in your head a lot. I know I can overthink stuff a lot, and then it actually happens. You're like, oh, that wasn't nearly what I thought it'd be.
Yeah, I feel that. Most of the time I'm overthinking negatively, but when it actually goes down, it's like it often doesn't happen. Yeah, just come as prepared as you can, both mentally and like physically with food or whatever. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, and sharing that it is an opportunity to maybe have a conversation with someone, or just set the example. Like maybe if you're going to a party, you might be the first vegan that anybody meets. So even if you don't talk about it, like, or if they know but you don't talk about it, you could set the example of like, oh, this person's cool, because I feel like there's a big misconception about vegans that they're like hippies and weird, and I don't know, just whatever people think. So yeah, appreciate that.
No, absolutely. Unfortunately, a lot of times, we're representing the larger group as a whole, and
Totally.
so there's a little challenge of always kind of being on your A game and always being friendly and all that, and even if you're in a bad mood, because if you don't represent yourself well in one situation, people are going to think all vegans are like that. And it's kind of a little added pressure, but it's also just an opportunity to have the opposite effect on people. And everyone has their little pre-programmed thoughts of like why being vegan doesn't make sense. And they're really pretty easily shot down with casual conversations. So, and I mean, the majority of them, I believed for sure. And so being able to just kind of have that conversation with people, I think you can at least get to a point where it makes sense to people. They may not have the commitment to it, but I think that you can get people to understand why it's important to you.
Totally. Yeah, and plant the seeds for them, and maybe one day those seeds will sprout, and they'll look into it more themselves.
Excuse me for one more second. I got to give Ziggy his juice.
Yeah, do it.
He,
What kind of juice?
program to his
I'm wondering if
routine.
there's a way to make like an academy, or Jay, I'm wondering if there's a way, like, because you had to learn all these tools and these techniques and social media, and run a sanctuary as a basically almost as a business.
Yep.
It really is. It is a nonprofit business. So, do you know of, like, I know that a lot of sanctuary owners are pretty tight knit. Like, do you know if there's any type of sanctuary training or academy or something like that to like help train people how to run their own sanctuaries?
There is Farm Sanctuary has a I guess it's a course. I guess that's probably the best term for it that they'll do with people. There's also the Open Sanctuary Project. Is that right? Open Sanctuary Project. Yeah, and it's basically an online database of just different contributions from social media to how to build fence to, I mean, goes on and on and on and on. So that's a really good resource for people as well. I think the best thing to do is before you start a sanctuary is just to volunteer, like be a really, really dedicated volunteer, like to the point where you're almost living the life, and then see if that's what you want. Because as much as we can use other sanctuaries, we can also use more volunteers and stuff, and then you can have like the value in your life to be able to take the vacations and stuff too. So, but really, you know, getting like deeply involved, I think, is the best thing you can do, and you'll either learn a lot so you know how to do it and you know what to do, what not to do when you do start, or you'll learn that, hey, maybe I don't want to have my own necessarily, but I do want to be involved, and you know, there's just so many different ways to do it. So that's probably the best thing you can do is get involved. And then the only other advice I have for people trying to start out is just go slow, right from the get-go. Have, you know, do a little math and think like, okay, you know, if every month or so, you know, it costs us, you know, X amount of dollars per month, have 6 months set aside. And so when you have 2 animals, you have enough to take care of those 2 animals for 6 months before you add a 3rd animal, and so on and so forth. And if you just always maintain that, you're not paying catch up. And if you find yourself dipping below that, then you have time to make the adjustments before it becomes like a catastrophic thing. Because this is a business, but this is type of business, or it needs to be run like a business, but it's the type of thing that you can't fail at, because, you know, there's animals that become dependent on you, and there's definitely a point of no return. And we've seen quite a few in the last few years go under, and it's a nightmare to clean up, and it also sends kind of a poor message, you know, from like our adversaries, I guess you could say, saying like, look, they don't even know how to take care of their animals, or they don't even know what they're doing, and look, where you know, their mess has to be cleaned up and stuff. And it's so, yeah, just being really deliberate about how you grow. We've made mistakes along the way, everyone has, but that's I think the biggest thing is try to just be prepared, because the longest timeline, something horrible will happen, whether it's a fire, whether it's, you know, tornado, whether it's, you know, you break a leg, you know, there will be something that happens. And the only way to really be prepared for that is just to have a lot of redundancy in your resources, both financial, people, everything.
Awesome. All right. Well, we will drop your links below so that people can come look at you, support you. You guys are all over social media, so like if for some reason people can't donate, they can at least share your mission and what you're up to. Any other final things that you want to shout out or throw out there that people could do to support?
I'm gonna see if Kristen wants to say hello.
All right.
Make her say hello.
Hi, Kristen.
How are y'all?
Get Ziggy going.
I'm sorry, I wanted to be in it today, but we've got too many moving parts.
That's totally fair. All good.
But thank y'all for having us.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing what you do. Genuinely, thank you.
Absolutely.
I think you guys, obviously, we can't save every animal the way we want to, the way that you guys are. But this is a great way to have mascots for what we do.
Yep.
And for those that, wonder, is Ziggy worth all this expensive care? I mean, I think Ziggy's the whole reason that you guys are on the map. So of
Yeah,
course,
of course he
brings
is.
it.
Yeah. I mean, we think him as an individual is worth it, but also, just from a top down view, if you're looking about, money and impact and how it's saving animals, I mean, to justify the money that we spend per animal, and any sanctuary does, there has to be a greater impact out there to really, for donor dollars, to be impactful, to contribute to sanctuaries. It's very important that we reach out beyond just the animals that we're saving.
It was an animal sanctuary that encouraged me. Well, not encouraged me, but they allowed me to partner with them to raise money to get this head tattoo done in order to save a pig. So like the goal, I was going to do the tattoo either way. We raised enough money to hook him up for life and get him some surgery. So Henry the pig is out there being a mascot on his own little sanctuary. And,
that's great.
What you guys do is so powerful. I mean, you've got several 100,000 people watching your journey. I guarantee not all of them are vegan yet, but you guys are putting that message out there, cutting the demand, helping reduce the number of animals being bred into existence like this. And this is how we'll change the world. So
Absolutely.
Jay, thank you for being here, brother. Take care of yourself.
I appreciate it. And thank y'all for what you do. I think there's a ton of value with what you do as well.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for tuning in to another phenomenal episode of the Vegan Squad Pod. I hope that you're feeling inspired to pursue activism in your own way. That was our goal when we set out to launch this podcast. We want to help inspire other vegans to find their voices. But that's not all we do. We also have the Vegan Squad coaching team, where we help people find their way to veganism, and we help vegans get even more fit. This, for me, is another form of activism. The more that we can elevate the lives of the vegans that work with us, the more the rest of the world will see us living our best lives and be a little bit curious. Additionally, every single one of the coaches on the Vegan Squad coaching team is 100% vegan. So you know that by supporting us, you are literally supporting other vegans. Exclusive for listeners of this podcast. If you'd like to work with us and hop on a free call, click the link below. One of our expert coaches will reach out and help you elevate on your fitness journey. If anything that you learned today on this episode was useful to you, please share it with a friend, and we'll see you next week.